In this video, we're going to take a look at probability and introduce the probability scale to help us to understand how we can work out the mathematics behind probability. So when we think of probability, we are thinking about things that could be impossible or certain or somewhere in the middle of there somewhere. And so we have some words which we associate with probability, and these are given here. So I want us to imagine probability as a scale. Okay, and on one end of the scale, we have impossible. On the other end of the scale, we have certain. But what's important now is to sort of understand a kind of a numerical context. So when we have a probability that is impossible, we say its probability is 0. And when we have something that is certain, we say that the probability of it happening, it's a guarantee, its probability is 1. So anything that falls in between those will have a probability of between 0 and 1. And if it is if we think of the middle of it as being 0.5, then if we are anywhere to the right here in this between 0.5 and certain, we can kind of say it's likely to happen. It's more likely to happen than not likely to happen. And if we are over this side, nearer the impossible side, well, it's less likely to happen than it is going to happen. So we say it's unlikely. So these are some just general ideas to help us get started. Now, just because there's two possible outcomes, it doesn't mean that it is definitely going to be right in the middle there. Okay, that is absolutely not the case. So let's just be very clear about that. So something that is in the middle is equally likely to happen as to not happen. So an example of an event could be, well, what about throwing a coin and getting tails? Okay, so let's write that down. Getting tails on a coin. So that does have a probability of 0.5 because it's just as likely to happen as not happen. But something like rolling a 1 on a dice is definitely not going to be 0.5 because it's more likely not to happen. So maybe rolling a 1 on a dice is somewhere here. Let's write that down. We're just estimating, but rolling a 1. It's certainly not impossible, so it's not going to be 0, but it's definitely not as high as a half, is it, or 0.5, because it's more likely it won't happen than it will happen. So I hope this gives us a little understanding of how we can understand this probability scale, all right, okay? And just to clarify this, we can use fractions as well as decimals, all right? And when we have that equally likely to happen and not to happen, we say it has an even chance of happening or a 50-50 chance of happening. Okay, I hope that gives us an understanding of some basic probability, and now we'll look at some examples in the next video of some simple one-event probability.